Hey everyone, this is Jihan Thomas. I am a Crown Diamond in Young Living. I'm the founder of Living Fierce Club and I am a partner in the Solomon Regis Group. So today I want to talk about getting unstuck and finding your rhythm. As you know, just from the intro, I do a lot. I have a lot of businesses and I have to find a rhythm in order to be able to manage all of that. Before I get started on this, I want to tell just very briefly about my story because I don't know, I think it's important. There's so many of you out there who think that you can't build your dream life or your dream career because you're already otherwise engaged in something else. And I want you to know that I'm one of the very, very few people in Young Living who built up to Diamond part-time while having a full-time and otherwise full-time career, okay? And I still have another career. So I never gave up what I love to do. I still do that and I was still able to build to Diamond. So I wanna talk about some of those principles and what I do so that I could get unstuck or keep, remain unstuck. Although I do sometimes get stuck myself. But also more importantly, how I find my rhythm and the tools that I use for that. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Before I forget, you can find me on Facebook. You could find me at livingfierceclub.com. I'm all over. You can find me. Okay. So, okay. I have my notes here. So if I keep looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. Otherwise I tend to go on a tangent. Although, listen, I'm probably still going to go off on tangents. Okay. When I'm talking about energy flow, I'm more specifically referring to elements. So earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So you'll hear me talk about those elements, not so much about ether. Ether is when you're ether is what brings it all together, but it's like the very high vibrations, your connection to spirit, which of course is enormously important. But when I'm talking about your rhythm and getting in, connected with that rhythm, I'm really going to focus more on earth, water, fire, and air. Okay. And then of course carry those through the seasons. All right. The reason I say the seasons, because the seasons also follow a rhythm. So here, we're in fall. This is an air time. We're going to be moving into earth. You'll see why that's significant. After that, we're going to go into water, which will be the spring. And then we go into fire, which is the summer. Okay. And each of these elements has their own unique flow to it, their unique energy. And sometimes we're in earth and we want to perform like we're in fire or air. And we find some difficulties and we get frustrated with that, which is very much actually a fire quality is frustration. So, we get frustrated with that, or we're in a fire time when there's a lot of expansion and all that, or like in an air time when there's a lot of thought that goes with it and all that. And we find it's like, okay, it's too much and we don't know how to ground and balance out that energy. So I'm going to say that everybody follows all the elements. It's in you, it's in your foods, it's in the actual cycle of life, it's in the seasons, it's in all of that. Most people, however, are unaware of these rhythms, and so they always feel like they're doing something wrong. And you might feel that way as well. You might be in certain moments where you're like, well, I did so great in October. I don't know what's happening to me in February. It's not about October versus February as much as you understanding what rhythm you might be in and flowing better with that rhythm. And I promise you, you'll probably be a lot happier when you're able to just think it out a little bit. And if you remember nothing of what I'm going to teach you today, that's fine. Just maybe what I would say is just give yourself a break more often than not, okay? Because I'm gonna guess you're not very gentle with yourself, like most people are not, and they want to beat themselves up all the time and find things wrong with themselves, and we're our biggest critic. So just, be gentle with that piece of it, because at the end of the day, if you just really attach onto your passion and whatever it is and obsessively think about the passion and move in the direction of the passion, you will get there. That will be the path. So even if everything I talk about, you're like, my God, it's too heady, it's too much, there's so much more to learn. I don't want this to create an analysis paralysis. I want this to be just something where you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. So now I don't have to beat the crap out of myself, for A, B, and C. I don't have to do that because maybe I'm just in a different time and a different rhythm. So if I could help you just flow with it a little bit better, and then of course use it maybe if you're feeling stuck in one area, help you kind of navigate out of that, then I feel like today is a success. And if not, then fine. And if not, like I said, at the end of the day, if you really latch onto your passion and you just start going after it, you're still gonna succeed. It's gonna be great, okay? Okay, so The tools that I use and I teach, and it's the kind of the tenets, the cornerstone of what Living Fierce Club is all about and what my career has been all about for 25 years coaching people. It's using food, movement, mindset, community, and I say a good dose of essential oils, right? And those are the tools that I use. Like oftentimes you'll hear people say, well, all you have to do is get into the right mindset. That's not really true. I mean, it's nice and it's important and it's certainly something I include with that, but that's not the only thing. There are many ways for you to shift your life, your experience, your all that where you're at. There's many other tools. It's not just a single tool. Some people will just get really super focused on food and then the others struggle and then they, get upset about that piece of it. You don't have to just worry about that. You could, there's many other things that you could put your attention to that could then help you flow in and out of whatever experience that you're looking to have. But the 5 things that I do focus on: food, movement, mindset, community, and a good dose of essential oils. So, okay. Let's talk about food. When I'm talking about food for the elements, okay, I'm talking about like earth foods. Earth foods are very grounding. Those would be the foods that are, that are actually in the ground. Those are your root vegetables. Those are like your garlic counts as that, potatoes, onions, anything that grows like under the earth. Those are your earth foods. Earth is where courage and fear is. It's the energy of it, okay? It's courage and fear. It slows things down. So when you're feeling like, oh my God, everything is like spinning out of control, you're in your head a lot, maybe you can't like settle your thoughts, bringing that energy down could be really positive for you. And you could do that through food because food carries energy, right? So you could do it through food. So that's what the earth foods would be, those that are under the ground, okay? Now, if you want to bring in essential oils, I guess I'll talk about it here. So if you want to bring in essential oils to that, those would be like your grounding oils. So Valor is really good. Your tree oils in general. Now, tree oils, I tend to think of being really well balanced because they have to root into the earth, right? So you got that good earth energy. They have to be able to sprout up. That's your nice water energy. It has to reach into the sky, right? So you're going through all the elements as you're doing that. And it's very balancing. And they have to be able to withstand all different conditions. And they tend to live in community. Trees tend to live in community. So I feel like the tree oils are some of the absolute most powerful oils that we have are the tree oils for overall balancing, and especially for earth too. So when you're looking for that like overall balancing or to ground yourself, I would focus on tree oils. So Valor is really great. Idaho blue spruce, although I think that's a little higher frequency. I would go more for maybe Northern Lights black spruce. That would be a place that or an oil that I would focus on. Excuse me, there's an oil called grounding, so you could do that, of course. Anyway, those types of oils, that's what I'm talking about. Excuse me. I'm so allergic to my cats, but I love cats. And my cats are all surrounding me right now because I'm sitting in here. Okay, so that was earth. Now moving into water. Let's move into water. So food-wise, water are the foods that are right on top of the earth. So those would be like your squashes, they would be your strawberries, oh my gosh, I have to think now. Watermelon, all your melons, they grow right on the earth. So anything that grows, even cucumbers are very earth-like because they could vine out. They don't have to vine up. We tend to make them vine up, but they really go out, okay? Water foods would be your sprouts also. Any of your, at that stage, they are water foods. So any of those foods, basically anything that grows, like your herbs are water foods, anything that goes from like the earth level to about 2 feet, those are going to be your water foods, okay? And your water foods that's the path of least resistance. That's attachment and letting go. That's the polarity of the emotions with it. That's attachment and letting go. It's what brings more flow. So if you were looking to have more flow, it's also where your relationships are, by the way, your relationships, sexuality, sensuality, all that. So if you were looking for like really more flow, let's say you're just like, I cannot get into, you know, a flow or the path of least resistance. Say that you're always like working against something and against something and against something. You may want to focus more in the water area of your foods. Water movement is very much like, Again, path of least resistance. So all that like flowy kind of movement, there's flowy kind of music, all of that would be within water. So when you have a focus on that and bring that into your experience, then you might see things start to open up for you. You might feel a shift in your energy when that happens. So that would be something to focus on if you are looking to get to water. Now, let's say you, again, were in that state where your thoughts are constantly going. You wanted to be able to ground them a little bit. You don't have to go straight to earth to ground them. You might want to go into water and go more into a path of least resistance. Again, getting none of this perfect. It's not about getting it perfect. I'm just trying to give you a different viewpoint on how you see your foods and how you might see oils and how you might see your movement. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, next would be fire. So your fire foods, well, the fire element in general is a very expansive kind of element, okay? Now, I am a fire sign. I'm a Leo. I am very fire. I'm always in my fire. It's very hard to tame, for me to tame my fire. So I oftentimes put so much focus into my fire because it's what I'm most comfortable with that sometimes I need to simmer it down. That's where I'll go into water. You see what I mean? Like I need to like, okay, I'm going to calm this down. I'm going to go into water foods, water movement. I'm going to physically get in water. I take a lot of baths, you know, things like that help to bring fire down and tame it a little bit. But fire is where anger, frustration, resentment as the negative polarity and forgiveness as the positive polarity. Now that doesn't mean I have anger, frustration, resentment towards anyone else or that I have to be forgiving other people, or that doesn't mean for any of the elements. It's usually more how it's focused on yourself, okay? So I'm very mindful of those things, that when I'm really feeling so much in my fire, because again, the good thing is you get great expansive energy and you're allowed to, you're able, not allowed, but you're able to do so much. That comes during summertime, actually, is when it's fire season. And I'm going to talk more about that, even, you know, go back into it. I'll touch upon all these things again. Okay. So again, the food part of fire now would be like your grains. They would be, anything that grows from like 2 to 6 feet is really your fire. So your greens, peppers, tomatoes, those would all be within fire. Okay, I can't even think of anything more, but you guys know, just look at how things grow, like 2 to 6 feet. By the way, lavender would be a water. I forgot to mention an oil. Lavender would be a water oil. Fire oils would be like your cinnamons and all those, like those ones that are like the hot oils. They, even though you could find hot oils in part of the other elements, they would also be considered fire ones. So think of the ones, believe it or not, clary sage, you would think of it being more like a water oil, but it's not. It's actually in fire. So anything from 2 to 6 feet is going to be your fire. So with food, with oils, all that stuff, it's all the same. So, okay. So right there with fire, what else? Okay, movement would be a lot of like real good physical activity, bursting activity. That would be very fire. I do a lot of physical activity. Usually fire signs need a lot of activity to at least help to simmer the fire also. A lot of physical activity. So anyway, that's fire. Okay, now you have air, and the air foods are 6+ feet. So those are going to be like your lemons, your nuts, all that. Okay, those are going to be your air foods. And the quality of that would be judgment and compassion. That would be the air. So if you find yourself in a big state of judgment or a big state of compassion, those tend to be your air qualities. So you could either feed it more or you could help simmer it down and bring the energy down a little bit. Okay? So that's food. Now, the movement piece of it, when I say movement, so food, movement, mindset, community, and essential oils. So the movement piece of it is not just your physical movement, although I gave you some examples of physical movement, but it's also about moving out of your environment. Sometimes you need to just get out of your regular environment. So yes, the physical activity, which the human body requires physical activity. So if you're doing no physical activity, that's one of the first and easiest things that you could start to do to try to, you know, shift out of whatever place you might be in that feels stuck. Now, physical activity does not mean I'm going to go from 0 to like CrossFit master. Like, you don't need to do that. Honestly, just going for walks, just getting like literal physical movement. If you are in some way unable to physically do more than you'd like to be able to do, again, even just like moving your arms or like, you know, bringing them up or moving your legs, even if you're in a seated position, any kind of movement is going to be better than no movement. Okay, so just get any kind of movement. And that will help. But so I'm talking about the physical movement and physical activity, but I'm also talking about changing your environment. If you were able to get out of your environment, you should. Now, that might look like, okay, I need to like leave my space that I'm in right now and move into the next room, or I need to go for a walk, or whatever it is. That would be great. That's a physical shift of your environment. It might also mean cleaning up your environment, moving things around, not only decluttering, but maybe, you know, moving your furniture around in a space that you're already in. Like, all those things create movement and open up space. The other thing is, I have a principle that I teach in Living Fierce Club, and that's building your success from vacation to vacation. Okay, so you measure your day from success to success, you count your wins, and you build your success from vacation to vacation. So I think the physical act of going to other places and exploring the world, even if it's local, is really important. So instead of just maybe walking around your neighborhood, maybe go to a park you haven't been to. Like, start to explore your world a little bit more, even if it's local or you're starting out local. You're going to be surprised at how you're able to shift things. If you hear what I'm saying here, it's, if you want to change things, you have to change things. That's what it comes down to. Like, if you want to change things, you have to change things. I know it sounds overly simplistic, but it's what it is. So you could do all these things, some of them exceptionally simple. You could do all these things and you might feel a great shift fairly quickly, even when it comes to trying new foods, like I talked about now. Even if it does that, even if it's just being more aware and cognizant and, you know, deliberate. I always say you want to be deliberate. You know, you're always, even when it comes to oils, you know, people say they're not into essential oils or whatever. It's like you are exposed to essential oils all the time when you are outside breathing your air. When we talk about essential oils, we're talking about the deliberate use of them. We're talking about not doing things by default. And that's what I mean here, is the more deliberate use of your life, of yourself, of your foods, of your movements, all of that. That's what I'm talking about. So I think it's really important to not only get physical change with, and of course change around maybe your immediate space, and of course exercise, but also think in terms of exploring more. When you explore more, it opens your mind up. It makes you more aware of things. And get your face, guys, out of this. Like, if you are spending so much time only looking at this, I think that's a problem also. You know, where are you going with that? You want to be able to look up and see the world and see the colors and see the sky. Even if you were to lay down on the ground and look up, you get a different perspective. You get a different viewpoint. And the more you can start to shift your viewpoints, the better. You'll get more creative. You get more ideas. Anyway, okay, so that's movement. Now, I want you to be clear about something too. When you want to create a shift in your life, let's say you want to create a shift in your life, in your career. When you create a shift in other areas, it's like a pebble in the water, and that will also shift. So if you wanted to shift, again, let's use career as an example. This is the Young Living Success Summit. Thank you again, Barney, for having me on. But if you want, again, if you want to think in terms of like, I want to shift something in my career or my Young Living business, you could shift things in other areas, and that energy will ripple out and then start to affect your business. Okay, so it's not just about, you know, if I want to change my Young Living business, I have to be all into my Young Living business at all times. Yes, you have to have attention there. Yes. But the initial, let me get out of this stuckness or whatever, or, you know, in looking for more creativity, you could create that in another area of your life and it'll translate into this. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're like, I need movement, but so I'm going to sit in front of my desk and figure out how to create movement in my business. Or you could not do that. You could go create movement in your physical body. You could go out and go for a good power walk. And as you're walking, you'll explore new neighborhoods. As you're doing that, you come up with a really great idea that you could then apply to your Young Living business. You see what I'm saying? Like, it could be this indirect connection as you're doing it. So now that's like an immediate type of thing to do. The other thing is, let's say that you got really focused on your diet. Let's say you wanted to go plant-based, which is exceptionally healthy. Let's say you wanted to have a plant-based diet. When you just go through a simple, well, for some not so simple, but when you go through an act of changing over, say, to a plant-based diet, your energy is naturally going to shift in your being, and then you're going to start to attract things within that energy. So you could use other parts of your life to shift the part of your life that you are looking for the change in. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, mindset. Here's the thing about mindset. It's really important to study mindset principles just so you have an understanding of how they work, but you can't be in a constant state of study and think that anything is going to happen. It just doesn't work like that. That's like, I mean, listen, I would love for fairy dust to be like a thing, but it's not. It's just not. You have to get into action. And I find a better method, like study mindset so that you understand principles. But it's so much more important for you to get into action. I can't express this enough. I'd rather you fail forward, make like a bazillion mistakes, learn from them and do it better next time. I'd rather you fail forward than say, I'm going to continue to study because one day the light bulb's going to go off and then I'm going to go from like here to like here. That's not going to happen. We tend to take these really small, mostly indiscernible steps. But when we look at it over time, like where you are right now to where you are from a year from now, you can see like a major, major difference. But if you do nothing, you're gonna get nothing, okay? But if you just take these actions every day, even if it feels like, oh my gosh, it's not going anywhere, you will be surprised where it's at in a year from now. You'll be surprised where it's at in 2 years, where it's at in 5 years. I use this as an example too, this length of time, because too many people have a really skewed view of how long something might take. You know, you want to do something and say you come out, let's say for Young Living, you come out the gates, you hit your warm market, everything goes up, you could do it in 2 or 3 months to hit certain ranks, whatever, and you feel like a total rock star, and you probably are. Like you just went out there, you did great, and then all of a sudden you hit executive, you hit silver, whatever it is, and you feel like, oh my gosh, where's my business going? Nothing is happening right now. What happened to everyone? What did I do? Right? Nothing went wrong, okay? Let me tell you that. Nothing went wrong. It's just that you went through one market and you were only prepared for that one market, okay? And that happens. Now would be the time to say, okay, I need to do things, you know, shifting so then I have better ideas, get more creative so that I can start to now hit the other markets. And I know this is going to take a certain amount of time. And that's the whole thing. People want things to be fast, fast, fast. We live in this world of instant gratification. Instant gratification is very disappointing in the long term. It is exceptionally disappointing. If you could train yourself, and it's really a discipline, if you could discipline yourself for more delayed gratification, you will have more overall gratification. Okay, so when I say a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, these are realistic numbers, guys. If you're looking to build something, you know, big for yourself or even small, whatever's big for you, I don't know, whatever's big for you. If you're looking to do these things, it takes time. So you should be thinking long, the long game. You don't even go through all the elements of the seasons for an entire year. It takes a year just to go through all of that. So why somebody would go through one season and say, okay, well, I'm done. I tried it. I gave it a good shot. It's like, whoa, you didn't even hit a full cycle and you're already not doing anything. Okay. So yes, mindset's important, but action is way more important, and learning through that action, failing forward, making all the mistakes and then doing better next time, so much more important. Now, this is where in mindset where I really, really use my oils again, very deliberately. This is where I am diffusing all the time. This is when I'm inhaling them. Before I came and did this, I'm putting oils on. I'm getting really clear about my intentions, what I want to deliver for you guys, what kind of value I want to deliver for you, how I hope you walk away from it. So this is all the kind of thought that goes into what I'm doing. It's not just like, oh, let me hit record and, you know, and hope for the best. Like, that's not it. It's being way more deliberate. So I'm taking the oils. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for me. I'm praying for, you know, what we could do as a community, as humanity, how we could connect, how our souls connect, so I could bring it out myself, because this is my vision, how we could bring it out into the world. So getting that kind of deliberate, using your oils, and use whatever one speaks to you. I tend to like the oils that I know, again, the tree oils definitely, but today I used Highest Potential when I came on here. I really like One Heart for all those things that I just talked about. I like oils that really connect me to something, oils that like journey on, things that Gary created for very specific reasons. Like, I just like that. I know a lot of people say, well, I'm going to put on abundance and go with it. And listen, if that's your jam, go with it. you know, whatever it is. But I want you to also start expanding your oils repertoire, because we have like, for me, it's like God's gift in a bottle. Like, this is God's love. This is something that is here, that God put for us here on this planet, just like our food. You know, this is here for us to thrive, and it's meant to be used deliberately, just like our food is meant to be taken in deliberately, not just to grab and not really think about it. And, you know, it's to really be deliberate. So that's one of the things to do too, is to get really deliberate in your usage of oils, okay? And what you're doing in terms of your mindset. So I use oils to help with my vision. I not only put them on, I smell them, I diffuse them, I sometimes put them here, I oftentimes put them on top of my head, okay? The next thing you want to do with your mindset is, and I talked about this before, is that you want to hold on to your vision, whatever that is, obsessively. You want to think about it all the time. And when I'm thinking about my vision and what I'm going after, I do it while I'm exercising, I do it while I'm eating, I do it while I'm praying, you know, sleeping. I spend time visualizing. Like, I think about it all the time, not just like a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes at night. Like, I don't even set a time aside for it, guys. Like, I know some people do that, and listen, whatever works for you. I don't do that. I just do it all day long. I'm always thinking about the things that are important to me, what my vision is. My vision is very much around community, which I'll talk about in a minute. You know, that's what I focus on. So no matter what I'm doing, that's what I'm thinking and visualizing and all that. And that's when I do most of my mindset work, is when I'm doing everything else that I do in my daily life. It's all the time. So for mindset, it's also important, or your vision, is to really be obsessive about that vision. And one of the things I say to myself, because I do have 3 companies that I run, which can be difficult at times, one of the things that I say to myself is that there's plenty of time. There's just plenty of time. I have all the time that's necessary. I have all the time that's necessary. And I'm telling you guys, I find time. Now, I'm talking about my business part of it. You have to understand, I'm also a wife. I have 3 children. I spend a lot of time with my kids. I do not sacrifice that time. You know, every weekend from Friday night to Sunday, I am not on social media. I don't work at all. I'm with my family. That's during my family day. We call it the rest day, but that's my family time. Every evening I'm with my family when I don't have to do, you know, I often do lives, or teach on in the evening. So I'm with my family. So if you want to have it all, which you can, if you want to have it all, you want to be very mindful. You want to be, you know, very scheduled. So I can't sit there in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to take all this time to do my mindset work, when it's like, what? Yes, I do have time that I do my mindset work when I'm, you know, like reading and doing it, which is nice because I read a lot. So there's times I do that, but I'm doing it all day long, guys, all day, all activity, thinking about it obsessively. Okay. Community. So we did food, movement, mindset, community. Community, to me, for me, that's where my passion lies. It's always been about bringing together like-minded people. Otherwise, I'm honestly like a super freak. So I need other super freaks to kind of be with me, right? So for me, it's all about building community, and that's what I focus on. So I don't think like, okay, I need to sell a Young Living kit, like another kit. I just don't think of it like that. I think totally in terms of what my passion is, and my passion is building communities. That's what I do in Living Fierce Club. Yes, I do a lot of coaching. I do all that stuff. That's my strength. That's my education. It's what my degrees are in. It's my career, all that. But it's the community piece of it that is first and foremost. I want to bring together like-minded people. And when I say like-minded, it's like-minded to me as well, right? So I'm on the fringe. I've always been. I'm the black sheep. We make a joke about it in Living Fierce Club about being a black sheep. I'm the black sheep. And most of the people in LFC are black sheep. So it's bringing community together. When I started with Young Living, it was like, okay, I was already into natural medicine. I've been in Young Living a long time, guys, by the way. So I was already in natural medicine at that point, and holistic living in general. So for me, the oils were just such a natural addition to that healthy lifestyle and to really be promoting wellness. And when I first started out, nobody even knew what essential oils were. Of course, now they're all over the place, but nobody even knew what essential oils were. So I'd have to talk about that, number one. But then when you explain what essential oils are and how wonderful they are, and you're trying to get people to think in terms of, not just perfumes, but to think how this could expand your life, it could expand your wellness and touch upon all these different areas of your life. Most people think you're insane. I thought I was insane. The first time it was brought up to me, I thought it was insane. insane, right? Looney Tunes. But then I didn't. And I love it. I love essential oils. So for me, and I love Young Living. So for me, it was about bringing people together in that central mission of there must be more people like me who are looking for people like me, because I'm looking for people like me. So there must be more people of like mind that I could connect with. So I needed to go and talk about it, or I never would have found those people. And that's what was most important to me. That was my passion. Through that, I built up a gigantic community. Like I said, I'm a crown diamond in Young Living. I built up a huge community. And that's what was important to me. So find your thing that's important to you. But I think community in general is that, like, you know, I'm not just building an essential oils business. I'm building a community. It's a little bit different. So anyway, that's my thing on community. So next thing, okay, essential oils. I talked about oils. I've been talking about them all along, but how they go in terms of the elements. So I talked about the fire oils. The air oils would be like your citrus oils, the lemon oils, all that. And I think there's ether oils, even though frankincense would be considered a air oil, you know, for where it is. I think that it's also, like, you know, for me, I use it like connection to spirit. I think it's also a very, very, very high vibrational oil. So I think it touches upon an ether. But that's what you'd be looking at. You'd be looking at, again, I went through earth, water, and fire. So the air would be like your citrus oils. Those would be air, and anything that's higher up. So even your tree oils, honestly. That's why tree oils are so balancing, because they really hit all the elements. All right, let's talk about seasons. So, flowing your business with the seasons. I'm going to touch upon, guys, there's just like so much. Like, I can't teach all of it, but I'm trying to give you things to, you know, to at least get a little bit of an idea from. Okay, so the spring season, okay? Spring is the sign of water. So that's also the time of renewal. The food, you would be your sprouts, okay? Is like I said, the water element. It's the path of least resistance. It's attachment, letting go, the movement. A lot of swimming would be in that. And this is the time in your business that you want to amp up for growth. Okay, this is when you start to see an acceleration of growth, or getting prepared, you know, for that acceleration of growth. That's going to be the spring energy, and then you're going to go into fire energy, and that's summer. And fire is very expansive. Okay, it's expanding outwards and upwards, and it's nice, right? To have that kind of expansive fire energy that happens in the summer. It's also where frustration, resentment could come in, and of course forgiveness, like I told you. So when I'm preparing for summer, when I'm preparing for the seasons, I think, of course, I want to grow all year round, but that's not realistic for any business to be growing all year round. I think in terms of the elements, and if I can move within the elements of that. So if I think in terms of spring and renewal and excitement, okay, so what am I going to bring and talk about and teach during that time? And in fire is going to be expansion and growth. I might talk more business during that time, which I do tend to talk more business during the fire time. And then you get into fall, and that's your harvest time. That's the air element. That's where judgment and compassion come in. It's lots of abundance. It's your harvest time. And there's lots of movement. Think of the holiday season, right? It's lots of movement. That's like an air time. That's not like an air time. That is the air time in terms of the season. So there's even more upgrowth. It feels sometimes chaotic even. And then you go into the deep. Then you go into winter, which is the earth time. And that's the time. That's when things slow down. It's very deep. It's where courage and fear are. This is when I like to really connect with my people that I like. All this growth has happened through the year. This is when I really like to now spend the earth time connecting with them, reconnecting with them. It's the time I regroup. It's a time I plan for the future, planning for the spring. You notice how we naturally do this going into a new year? I mean, this is all following along with the elements also, which I think is pretty cool. So in other words, I tell you all this because if I'm in earth time and I'm expecting this huge explosive growth in earth time, can it happen? Yeah, it can happen, but it tends not to. So if I'm feeling like the earth energy, then it's okay. It's just I'm in an earth time, and I'm going to use that time to do this. Whereas when I'm in, a fire time, I'm going to do this. When I'm in a water time, I do this. So in other words, you don't have to do the same actions throughout every season. You might find that when you start flowing with your business and flowing with the seasons of it, that you become less frustrated, You become less judgmental of yourself and everyone else. You get all less than that because you have an understanding of flow. And when you get into that rhythm and get into the flow, again, it'll be more realistic to business, number one, but it'll be calmer. And it's what's going to give the stability and longevity of your business. Because while it's nice to grow very rapidly, and you'll have those times that you grow rapidly, for the most part, you're not meant to be in a constant state of momentum. That's just not how life works. It's not how business works. There's always a polarity, right? In fact, a polarity viewpoint is that as high up as you go could be, you get your low points also. Now that doesn't mean your business goes up really high, then your business crashes. It just means your feeling of what happens when you're really high will also give the equal and opposite feeling when you're low. So you might take it really hard, okay? If you had this really big growth and then all of a sudden you didn't, you might take that really hard. So I want you to be aware of the elements of this, that also whatever is low is going to go back up. And one of my mentors has said to me that it's nice to even out the tops. As much as you don't want to, round out the top, it helps because it helps to round out the bottom as well. And then you get into more of a flow. And when you get into more of a flow, it doesn't have this emotional turmoil that tends to go along with any rapidness or the expectation of everything has to be rapid, everything has to be good all the time, or it's not working and I'm going to give up and all that. That's just not realistic to business. For me, I always go for the long game. I want to know that this is something that's going to sustain for me in 20 years from now, in 30 years. I want to know this is something that I could give to my children, that I could helps to support with my grandchildren. I want to know that I'm always going to have oils in my experience. I think very, very much for the long game. So when I'm planning out my year, which I do, when I'm planning out my year, I plan through the seasons and what I want to do. And I think more in terms of strength, stability, and go for the long game, because that's what I want in my life. Is it nice to get those sometimes big bursts of wins along the way that happen rapidly? Of course it is. That's great. That's like a cherry on top. But when you're really building your business and going with the flow of it, it's way more realistic to say, okay, I'm going to, have this trajectory. I'm going to look at it from year to year. Okay. And when you're comparing January, compare it to the previous January, never compare anything to November, things like that. And just look for the consistency and the consistency of growth, so that even if you have a little dip, it's not like a down. It's a little dip, a blip, but then it goes up again and a little dip. That's normal. See, that's normal to business. Most people just do not have the right kind of, viewpoint on it. So, okay. Anyway, this was very air, by the way. Do you see me doing all this quick? So I'm going to have to do grounding things after this. This was a very fire and air connection type of talk. Okay. All rhythms are natural. They're going to happen anyway. They're expected. They're going to happen anyway. When you start to align up with it, you're going to feel a lot better about it. Okay. Learn from the flow with seasons and the energy within, and align your business activity with it. At least that's what I do. And that's what works for me. Align your business activity with it. Guys, you need to decide what you care about. You have to decide what you care about and go after it. If you're not waking up every day saying, I need to do this because I care about this today, I'm going to go into, action, then you have not found your thing yet. You have not found your passion. That doesn't mean that the business is not correct for you. It just means you haven't found your passion within it. Too many people get focused on the kit sales, and that's never going to sustain you, ever. You're never going to do it, because then you could go sell another kit for another company. That's not the thing. It's never going to be your check. It's never going to be that the kit sales. It's not going to be that. Those are bonuses. Those are the things that you see as a result of your activity. But your activity births out of your passion. Okay, because if it doesn't do that, it will fall. It will crash. You will go put your sights somewhere else. You'll start chasing the sparkles, or chase the squirrels, really. You'll never end up anywhere, because you won't get it. You have to bring earth to your business. You have to bring substance. That's what earth is. It's substance. It's home. It's structure. It's all that. You have to bring earth to your business, to it. It has to ground. You don't want to build a house of cards. You want something that you're so passionate. Passion is a fire sign, but my fire is grounded in my earth. It has to be. Otherwise, I'll be shooting off all over the place, right? It has to be grounded in my earth. So I focus on my earth. I, of course, want to focus on the path to least resistance in my water, but I'm very fiery, so I have to bring it down a little bit of that. And I cannot follow my passions without having consciousness of around the grounding of it and making sure that my passion is really something that's meaningful to me. Otherwise, I will give up on it too quickly. I won't be interested in it. It has to be the passion is going to drive your business. It's the passion. It's the passion. It's not the check. The check is the result. It's the passion. Okay? So really get connected with your passion. And if you're not waking up, like I said, every day going, all right, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to get back to work. Then you have not touched upon that passion yet. And for me, the passion is community, bringing the community together and helping bring these amazing oils that I believe is God love. So not just oils, but God's love, bringing it and touching upon everyone, getting every home in the world. I am totally aligned with Young Living's mission, which was Gary's mission of bringing oils to every home in the world, because I believe in them and I know what it's done for my family. So when you get tapped into whatever your passion is, that's going to be the driving force. It will continue. That's how I could be with Young Living since, well, 1999, which is the first time, but 2004 consistently. That's why I could be with Young Living for this long and still really care about it, even though I have another career, and I always have. But it keeps me here because I care that much, and my passion is that much. I could never imagine in a million years not having Young Living in my life, and certainly not having essential oils in my life. I could never ever fathom that. So not only that, and knowing how passionate I feel about it, I want to help everyone else have that same kind of reward that I feel I get to live every single day. I feel blessed every day because I get to have these things in my life. So that is my motivation. That's what I want to do. I want to touch as many people as possible. And I know if I'm not out there speaking about it and telling people about it, how in the world are they ever going to know about it? How are they going to know? There are people out there that are looking for me. There are people out there looking for you. And the ones that are looking for you are not necessarily looking for me. They need your message. They align with you. And if you're not out there and you're not passionate and you're not talking about the things that are really important to you, how are they ever going to find you? How are they going to do that? So really tune into your passion, guys. This is where you're going to find your community, okay? You find your community through this. Now, again, just to finish off, you know, play with your food. Play with your food and start to look at how you feel, not just digestively, but look how you feel with the elements, okay? Does it bring you more energy? Does it make you want to just like chill out and do nothing, you know? Play with your food, play with your movement, your mindset, you don't have to play with your community, but maybe you do. Maybe you need to eliminate some people that are not so much in alignment, or like, you know, not put as much attention there and put more attention into those who are more in alignment with you. Even a shift in your community could be major. And of course, play with your oils deliberately, not just I'm going to put them on and run out of the house. Be really deliberate. Sit with them. When you sit with them, you could feel the energy. Even if you can't feel it, it's still working. It's touching upon every cell in your body. It's rippling out. Even if you can't see it. You can't see your Wi-Fi, right? It's still there. Same thing with the oils. When you surround, look at me. You see all these? This is just part of my collection. One of the promises I made to myself when I first started with Young Living and I knew how I was feeling, I said, I always need to be surrounded by these oils. So I used to buy the kits because that's how I could get the most amount of oils for the least amount of money as quickly as I could get them. Eventually I was able to afford more, but I would always go through the kits, right? Because and I'm not just talking starter kit. I'm talking like Golden Touch kit. We had a Seventh Heaven kit at the time. Everyday oils now, but it used to be called the Essential 7. There's used to be all these different kits. So Raindrop kit, any kits. I just wanted to surround myself at all times. This is my office, guys. This is not even like my regular space in my home. This is my office. Like, I just want to be surrounded because it brings joy to me. It helps me be immersed in the energy of it, so that when I'm making decisions and I'm thinking about, you know, obsessively in my vision of my passion, this is all part of it. So use your oils and be really, really deliberate about it. And this is going to help you find your community. It's going to help you grow, and it's going to bring such meaning to your life for the long term, not just something short. Yes, it's going to get you unstuck. But you get unstuck when you get really attached to your passion. And when you understand that there's a rhythm to everything, you won't get so, you know, maybe you will get frustrated, but I don't think you will get as frustrated or as down and out as you may have gotten before, because you know that you're just maybe in another rhythmic cycle, and therefore you have tools that you could use. You have your food, you have your movement, you have your mindset, you have your community, and you have your essential oils. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me today. Again, Jihan Thomas. You could find me on Facebook, and you could also find me at livingfierceclub.com. Take care.